Archetypes and the collective unconscious. Exploring the depths of the collective unconscious, a journey into Carl Jung's insights. Welcome everyone to today's lecture on one of the most intriguing concepts in psychology, the collective unconscious, as conceptualized by pioneering Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. In this session, we will embark on a journey into the depths of the human psyche, exploring Jung's revolutionary ideas that have left an indelible mark on the field of psychology and beyond. So, an overview of Carl Jung. Before delving into the collective unconscious, let's briefly acquaint ourselves with the remarkable mind behind this concept, Carl Gustav Jung. Born in 1875 in Switzerland, Jung was a contemporary of Sigmund Freud and a prominent figure in the development of analytical psychology. Throughout his life, Jung delved into the realms of mythology, religion, anthropology, and alchemy, drawing inspiration from diverse cultural sources to enrich his understanding of the human psyche. So you guys here, this is Carl Gustav Jung, right? So basically, let me just get this figured out here. Yep. The concept of the collective unconscious. At the heart of Jung's psychological framework lies the concept of the collective unconscious. Unlike the personal unconscious, which compromises an individual's repressed or forgotten memories, the collective unconscious represents a deeper layer of the psyche shared by all human beings across cultures and generations. It is the reservoir of universal symbols, archetypes, and primordial images that shape our thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. Archetypes. Central to Jung's theory of the collective unconscious and are archetypes, innate psychological structures that manifest as recurring motifs, themes, or symbols in the myths, dreams, and cultural narratives. These archetypes, such as the hero, the mother, the trickster, and the shadow, exert a profound influence on human behavior, often operating beyond conscious awareness. Through exploring uh, archetypal patterns, Jung believed individuals could gain insight into their unconscious drives and motivations, leading to greater self-awareness and individuation. Here's a picture of what that would look like, archetypes of the collective unconscious. Let's see here. Okay, so, oh yes, some more images here. So an archetype is a universal, this is just a summary. Archetypes is universal archaic symbols and images that derive from the collective unconscious. They are psychic counterparts of instincts. Example, the Imago Dei, the God image, is the reflection of the archetype in the human spirit. And the collective unconscious, the objective psyche, it refers to the idea that is a segment of the deepest unconscious mind is genetically inherited and is not shaped by personal experience. There you go. So here we have the creation of Adam. This is a really beautiful image if you look at it really closely. It's just like a representation of the Imago Dei. Here we have that we are made in God's image. So this would be God here, and this would be Adam. Just a nice little artistry that we can reflect on. Anyway, continue. Art intuitively apprehends coming changes in the collective unconscious. This is a quote by Carl Jung. Here we have an image. It's a very interesting image. I mean, take a deeper look at it. You can see here we have some towels hanging on a moon, and then like a little baby's basket looks like. I'm not too sure what this means, but art is definitely very hand in hand, goes hand in hand with the collective unconscious. Alright, so according to Jung, the ego represents the conscious mind as it comprises the thoughts, memories, and emotions a person is aware of. The ego is largely responsible for feelings of identity and continuity. It's conscious. The shadow. The shadow is either an unconscious aspect of the personality that the conscious ego does not identify in itself or the entirety of the unconscious. Example, everything of which a person is not fully conscious. In short, the shadow is the unknown side, the unconscious. Then we have the persona, the social face. The individual represents to the world a kind of mask designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. This is conscious. Then we have the anima and slash animus, either new concepts. So Jung described the animus as the unconscious masculine side of a woman and the anima as the unconscious feminine side of a man, each transcending the personal psyche, the unconscious. So this is unconscious. I'll show you guys an image of this. Show you guys here. Zoom in. There you can see here we have the self, the ego, the persona, the shadow, the anima slash animus, and how it kind of works around this circle, the model of the psyche. Jung believed that the psyche is a self-regulating system, rather like the body, one that seeks to maintain a balance between opposing qualities while constantly striving for growth, a process Jung called individuation. Alright, so that being said, let's talk about the shadow. The shadow is a living part of personality, and therefore wants to live with it in some form. It cannot be argued out of existence or rationalized into harmlessness. This problem is exceedingly difficult because it not only challenges the whole man, reminds him at the same time of his helplessness and ineffectuality. So here we have the shadow. It is a frightening thought that man also has a shadow side to him, consisting not just of little weaknesses and foibles, but of positively demonic dynamism. Very scary stuff, yo. But we move on. This is what the lecture's about. Okay, so the dark side of our unconscious. Here we have a picture of the Lion King. We have Mufasa's uncle or the brother leading basically a Nazi regime here. I would consider this political agenda of some sort, some type of dark political agenda of some sort. He's leading an army to go do bad things, and that's not good. So we have here, sorry, just go to my notes. This is what you would call, oh, dang, I forgot to hide that. So mass graves and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, this is just saying that this is like that if the radical left was, it's describing the shadow side of things. So mass graves in the Soviet Union were used for the burial of mass numbers of citizens and foreigners executed by the government of the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin. These mass killings were carried out by security organizations such as the NKVD and reached their peak in the Great Purge of 1937-38. 20 million people were killed by the radical left. So this just goes to show how far um, some of these shadow sides can go, and shadow manifestations can go when deployed on collective people. hmm So there is a man in an imago, not only of the mother but of the daughter. Here, let me show you guys the statue first. The anima, the inner feminine side of a man. The anima is both a personal complex and an archetypal image of woman in the male psyche. There is a man, not only an imago, not only of the mother but of the daughter, the sister and the beloved, the heavenly and the goddess, and the Sintara Babo. Every mother and every beloved is forced to become the carrier and embodiment of this omnipresent and ageless image, which corresponds to the deepest reality in a man. It belongs to him. This peerless image of a woman, she stands out for the loyalty which in the interest of her life he must sometimes forego. She is the much needed compensation of the risk, struggle, sacrifice that all end in disappointments. She is the solace for all the bitterness of life. This is very relatable for most men. I hope you guys can truly understand what that means for you guys' souls. Alright, this one cuts deep as well. The psychological aspect of the mother archetype. Alright, so let me read the notes for that. Mother complex. Definition: a group of feelings, toned ideas associated with the experience and image of mother. Mother complex is potentially active component in everyone's psyche, informed first of all by experience of the personal mother, then by significant contact with other women, and by typical effects on the son or home, and atypically effects on this. Blah blah blah. So basically, it's saying that there's an effect it has on men called Don Juanism, where sometimes impotence, um, the where the father complex also plays a part. Um, the son's entire heterosexuality is tied to the mother in an unconscious form. So he unconsciously seeks his mother in every woman he meets, which makes him homosexual. Yeah, so that's what that means. A man's mother complex is influenced by contrasexual complexes. The anima, to the extent that a man establishes a good relation with his inner woman instead of being possessed by her, even a negative mother complex may have positive effects. There we go. So, concerning rebirth, let me get you guys on this slide. So this is the phoenix, one of my favorite images of rebirth, yo. Let me get the slides going. Rebirth, the process experienced as a renewal of or transformation of the personality. See also individuation. I'd also definitely refer to this as a baptism of the soul. And it says in the Bible that a man can only be baptized by water and the Holy Spirit, and that's the only man that can be reborn again in the Spirit and can enter the kingdom of heaven. So I think that is important to mention here. Rebirth is not a process entirely is not a process that we can in any way observe. We can either measure nor weigh nor photograph. It is entirely beyond perception. When one speaks of rebirth, Jung distinguished between five different forms of rebirth: transmigration of souls, reincarnation in a human body, resurrection, psychological rebirth, which is individuation, and indirect change that comes about through participation in the process of transformation, and I think it's called metempsychosis. Psychological rebirth was Jung's particular focus, induced by rituals or stimulated by immediate personal experience. It results in an enlargement of the personality. He acknowledged that one might feel transformed during a certain group experiences, but he cautioned against confusing this with genuine rebirth. If any considerable groups of persons are united and identified with one another by a particular frame of mind, the resultant transformation experience bears only a remote resemblance to the experience of individual transformation. A group experience takes place on a lower level of consciousness than the experience of an individual. This is due to the fact that when many people gather together to share one common emotion, the total psyche emerging from the group is below the level of the individual psyche. If it is a very large group, the collective psyche will be more like the psyche of an animal. Interesting to know. This group experience goes no deeper than the level of one's own mind. In that state, it does not work a change in you, but the change does not last. Okay. Let's go to this slide. Psychology of the child archetype. Many of you know this image. This is a very archetype image of Simba being raised by the sage here, the monkey, and the Lion King. And yeah, let's break it down. Oh shoot, my bad. We all have observed a 70-year-old behaving like a child, throwing tantrums or hiding from their caretakers. We have experienced the occasional urge to engage in an impulsive shopping and our tendency to sulk and to expect others to console us. These are all expressions of the child archetypes in us. We usually associate qualities of innocence, impulsiveness, spontaneity, creativity, as well as those of dependence, naivety, ignorance, stubbornness, with the idea of a child. These qualities of the child archetype often manifest themselves in different ways for each of us. One of the first qualities that we associate with the idea of a child is innocence. The innocent aspect of the child archetype is naive as well as playful. Those of us in whom this aspect of the child archetype is prominent would find themselves to be generally easygoing, having a carefree approach, and being able to trust others easily. Such childlike innocence is beautifully exemplified in characters like Peter Pan and Snow White. When the innocent child in us is healthily integrated into psyche, it enables us to nurture the innocent, playful, lighthearted side in us along with being able to carry out responsibilities of adulthood with relative ease and balance. However, at times when we feel overwhelmed with challenges in our lives, this innocent child might not feel prepared to face them. It discovers that the world around us is not ideal, nor fair, and contains imperfections at every stage. As the child's happy bubble breaks, it leads to feelings of despair, and the child finds itself feeling overwhelmed. It is at such times when the shadow of the child archetype could come into play, and the child begins to find comfort in retreating into fantasy. We find ourselves refusing to acknowledge our concerns or deny them, and on a broader note, we refuse to grow up and take responsibility of the situation. Thus, the shadow side of the child is dominant in individuals who grow overly dependent on others to help them deal with their problems. At other times, when the child in us is wounded, probably stemming from a harsh environment or severely negative events, the child archetype becomes a source of strength for our psyche that is grappling with the pain. Usually, popular figures like Cinderella and Harry Potter depict the strengths of the child archetype. Both of them were orphans and experienced a painfully difficult childhood. However, they succeeded in their quest of transitioning into adulthood. In the real world as well, we see such strengths in individuals like Oprah Winfrey. Actually, I'm not gonna mention Oprah Winfrey. No. Blah blah blah. Not Oprah Winfrey. Okay. So we have a few more slides here and then we're gonna wrap this up. The phenomenology of the spirit fairy tales. An archetype and functional a complex, often personified and experienced as enlivening, analogous to what the archaic mind felt to be an invisible breath-like presence. From the psychological point of view, the phenomenon of spirit, like every autonomous complex, appears as an intention of the unconscious superior to or at least on par with intentions of the ego. If we are to do justice to the essence of the thing we call spirit, we should really speak of a higher consciousness rather than of the unconscious. The common modern idea of a spirit ill accords with the Christian view, which regards it as a summum bonum, as God Himself. To be sure, there is also the idea of an evil spirit, but the modern idea cannot be equated with the either. Since for us, spirit is not necessarily evil, we would have to call it morally indifferent or neutral. Since this is a Christian channel, I would definitely do some research. It says in the Bible, test the spirits for test the spirits to see what fruit they bear, something like that. And yeah, that's what you guys should always be doing. Don't just listen to me. Always do your research and know what I'm talking about is not to be taken lightly. Take it with a grain of salt at least. Okay. Old man. The archetype of the wise old man first appears in the father, being a personification of meaning in its procreative sense. The sage archetype, called Senex, Old Man in Latin, by Jung, is one of wisdom, knowledge, and power. It represents the innate spiritual aspect of our personality in the unconscious, and according to Carl Jung, appears in our lives through different symbols. It may take form of people, dreams, insights, or our lives learning pass on to each other. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Then we have the last one here. I think I'm gonna break down the 12 in my next episode. 12 archetypes. We have the trickster, the riddler, the keeper of balance, he of many faces who finds life in death and who fears no evil, who walks through doors. No. So the trickster is an alchemist, a magician, creating realities in duality of time and illusion. Breaks the rules of nature, becomes sometimes maliciously, for example, but usually with ultimately positive effects. I'll break this down later in later episode, but these are just examples of archetypes that we can relate to, or at least ponder upon until the next episode. So individuation refers to the process through which a person achieves a sense of individuality, separate from the identities of others, and begins to consciously exist as human in the world. The purpose of individuation of the individuation process is to increase the individual's consciousness. Um, yeah, so basically, with greater consciousness, individuals can heal splits in their mind between what's conscious and unconscious, bringing them to wholeness in their psyche. In the first half of life, we make our way through the world, doing our best to develop healthy egos. The first portion of life is mainly external as we seek to meet our basic needs. From Jung's outlook, the second part of life can represent a turning inward toward a deeper part of ourselves. This inward turn starts the individuation process. Alright? And here we have just some images I want you guys to reflect on from a lady who was doing some paintings of individual, or she was doing paintings. I like at the individuation process. So she was just painting some paintings, and this was her progress over some time. And as you can see, it just progressed into some beautiful artworks. This here, you can see she was by the shoreline here, by some rocks. Looks very pretty, and then something here happened, like I don't know, a lightning bolt hit some stone, and then let's see here. Uh, yeah, yo, this is beautiful stuff, man. I cannot tell you what it means, but I can only tell you that it looks beautiful, man. These are all mandalas, Christian mandalas. Well, just mandalas. Yeah. Does something to inside of your soul, like when you look at these images. Alright, gonna wrap this up in this last image here at the end. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for another episode of the individuation process, and easy.